parent-enfant. Voilà, comment rendre ça un peu plus profond. Et si le temps le permet, nous ferons une pause. Après cela, il va revenir sur le rôle de matching supporter et son importance avec quelques points. Et après cela, il aura des questions et réponses. Et ensuite, nous allons enchérir sur un autre point. Voilà, le processus de matching supporter. Voilà, vis-à-vis des matching supporters, il va développer le processus de matching. Et ensuite, après cela, comment trouver un candidat, il va développer également cela. Et on va faire une pause. Après la pause, maintenant, la conversation et la communication. Et ça sera le dernier élément qu'il va aussi développer. Après cela, nous allons passer au mot de clôture, à la prière de clôture, aux salutations et ensuite à la photo de famille. Merci beaucoup. Donc, sur place, nous allons saluer les vrais parents du ciel, de la terre et de l'humanité. Tchonchin, Tchompunke, Tchombe, Baro. Merci beaucoup. Nous allons réciter la promesse des familles. Numéro 1. Notre famille souveraine de Tchongilgo promet, en se centrant sur l'amour vrai, de regagner sa terre d'origine et de bâtir le royaume de Dieu sur la terre comme au ciel, qui est l'idéal originel de la création. Numéro 8. Notre famille souveraine de Tchongilgo promet, en se centrant sur l'amour vrai, de réaliser dans l'ère de Tchongilgo l'idéal d'unité dans l'amour entre Dieu et l'être humain, grâce à une foi, un amour et une obéissance absolue, afin de délivrer et libérer pleinement la terre et le ciel, et d'y établir le royaume de Dieu. Adieu. La prière d'ouverture, nous allons demander à Bishop Kalama, voilà, s'il peut nous offrir la prière d'ouverture. Bishop Kalama, yeah.
Let us pray. Beloved Heavenly Parents, beloved true parents, we thank you so much for the opportunity you are giving us today for this wonderful lecture. Since yesterday, we have learned a lot. We want really to incarn the tradition of true parents. We pray, beloved Father, that all the words we will partake today can be beneficiary for our family and for our future children, beloved Father. We pray that we can be able to enter this era, beloved Father, which you are really with us every time. We are now in era of the farm settlement, of the complete or completion of the providence. We pray, beloved Father, that with this workshop today can be able to advance. On behalf of all brother and sister who are here, in my name, Bishop John Kalama, Central Base Family, Aju.
Aju. Thank you so much, Bishop Kalama. Merci beaucoup à notre Bishop. Aujourd'hui, nous parlons un peu plus français pour vraiment voilà, mettre un peu de baume au cœur à nos amis francophones qui hier vraiment ont souffert parce que l'interprète avait un peu de difficulté de connexion. Donc, sur ce, nous allons voilà, laisser la place au révérend Ledouaba, représentant le président régional, pour donner quelques mots d'ouverture avant que nous ne commencions. Révérend Kalama et révérend Ledouaba, you have the floor. Avec vos applaudissements, hein, les applaudissements de la technique.
Bonsoir, c'est mon frère, Reverend Berry. Sorry, I can't speak French. That's how far my French goes.
Thank you, no problem.
Yeah, thank you, brothers and sisters. I think those of us who were here yesterday, we really had profound information from our elder brother, John Abelseth. And I think, Mr. Abelseth, you have set the standard very high, so you can't go lower today. You have set the bar very high for yourself. So, brothers and sisters, once again, as Bishop Kalama was praying, we received so much yesterday, and many of us are parents over a long period of time, and also we are raising up children. So the lecture we received yesterday really speaks to the issues we are dealing with. And I was saying yesterday that, this is really, in some instance, you can say the horse has bolted already, because we should have got this information. Of course, we got some of this information, but I mean, the manner in which it was presented yesterday, for me, it was in many, many ways refreshing. And as parents, sometimes, we tend to think that we have got all the answers and our children just need to listen. But we don't realize that these are human beings who are actualizing themselves. And one of the things I said yesterday, which really is true, and I wasn't hearing it for the first time, but it just hit home again, was when John was saying, we need to make it a point that our children, the blessing candidates or the matching candidates, own this process. Because if they don't, if they just go along with what mom and dad or the matching supporter is recommending, then, down the road, there will be problems. And I think primarily, it's not like you and me. Many of us here in Africa, we are the product of the 1992 blessing. Of course, we've got brothers and sisters from, the 6,000 couples in 82 and some in 89. But the bulk, most members of Africa, we received the blessing in 1992, myself included. And at that time, as you know, there was not really so much that you decide, so to speak. And I think, we need to embrace this change. So, Brother John Abelseth, this is maybe many of us, our mindset is like that. True parents give you the spouse. In many cases, you can't even speak the language, and you go out and you come back and you bow. That's it. The rest you figure out. Yeah. So I think, many of us have got this kind of mindset. So, it's really valuable. Brothers and sisters, once again, I don't want to take too much time. I want to allow the lecturer to really be able to speak to us. That as we listen, let's listen with an open mind. Certain things we know, but certain things we know and we are not doing. So let's really, with an open heart, with an open attitude, with an open mind, really listen to Heavenly Parents' voice educating us. So moderator, the MC, I give you back the mic. Let's have a very productive program. And brothers and sisters, blessed families, matching supporters, welcome to the program today. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Let us give a big hand for this wonderful opening remark. Merci beaucoup, Révérend Ledwaba, pour le mot d'ouverture. Donc, sans autre forme de procès, nous allons recevoir notre frère, notre aîné, qui, je vous le rappelle, depuis plus de 5 ans, voilà, suit l'Afrique, est avec nous. Je me rappelle encore quand on a organisé le premier PMC ici en Afrique, c'est lui qui nous a envoyé des profils des États-Unis. Et rappelez-vous, Carol Mbeki, le fils de Carol Mbeki avait été marié avec une Américaine. Voilà, ça vient de son travail. En tout cas, je voudrais vraiment que nous puissions ovationner John Abelseth, le coordinateur de Matching Supporter en Amérique. Et je crois qu'à la fin de la conférence, on va lui donner un nom africain. Merci beaucoup. Thank you. John, you have the floor.
Thank you very, very much. Bonjour and good morning. My French is not very good, even though I studied it for several years in Canada. I live in Canada, in Western Canada. We're a bilingual country, as many of you know. And so when I was going to school, we were required to study French. So I studied French for many years and failed it every time. So my apologies, but I can say bonjour, merci beaucoup. I'm very grateful to be here, and I really look forward to receiving an African name. I'm honored, very honored, and very grateful. So thank you very much. And yes, so I think we have a lot of information, a lot of material to cover today. So would be good if we could just get started. I do need to receive screen access. Oh, there we are. Got it. Okay. So this is the presentation that we ran out of time yesterday. I was not quite prepared to present it. Perhaps should have done this before the video, but I feel this is very important for parents, for families, because as Reverend Ludwaba pointed out, sometimes as parents, we don't listen well to our sons and daughters, to our children, because we think they should just listen to me because I know everything, right? We're not quite that. But getting to the heart of the matter, parent-child communication is really critical, of course, in the matching process. So this is one of the presentations that I feel for families is one of the most important. And we all can learn, of course. Father says, what is the center of the universe? Nothing is more important or more precious than the relationship between parent and child. And we know when we study the fall of Adam and Eve, that parent-child relationship was destroyed. And that's what caused the fall. So sometimes I feel in our families, Satan is trying very hard to destroy the relationship between parents and children, just as he did between God and his children at the time of Adam and Eve. So that's one reason why it's so difficult, I feel, for parents and children sometimes to connect and communicate with each other. But one thing it's important, I feel, for us to remember is this quote or this idea: the heart of the matching process is the relationship between parents and their young adult child. Matching supporters are in a parental role for first generation and are optional support for families, but can often be very, very helpful in family relations to help with the communication between parents and children. So that's one of the things that we need to look at as matching supporters and, of course, as parents as well. And some wise person once said, probably father, the best gift you can give your child is to love your spouse. The best gift. And we know when families break, that children very often feel guilty. They feel it's their fault or they're something they've done wrong that has caused their parents to break. And we know too that that is never the case, but still, this is so important for us to learn and grow in our love as parents for each other. That's even if we are doing it not for God, not for ourselves, not for true parents, not for healing and restoration, but even if we're only doing it for our children, this is so, so valuable and important. So as parents, our perspective is important, and it needs to evolve as our children grow up. So one thing I like to consider is, what were you like when you were a teenager or a young adult? Can any of you identify with this? This is kind of where I was at. That's a picture of me when I was 21 years old. I was in the far northern Arctic. The sun never set all summer, the entire summer that I was there. And this was a weather station on a remote island north of the North Magnetic Pole. In those days, the compasses went we had compasses, but the compasses went in a circle because we were north of the pole. It was very confusing, but fascinating, interesting experience. But I was nowhere prepared to be a parent. But this may be someone that you can identify with too. So when you were this age, the age of our children, our attitude and who we were was quite different, I think. So let's think about this. How was your relationship with your parents? And this is one of the things that I asked parents. Think about it. If in this picture, if you notice, the young lady, the daughter, has got earbuds, and mother is talking. Probably there's no communication. So if we think about communication, think about how you would have liked your relationship and your communication with your parents to have been. What would you change, or how would you have altered or preferred the relationship and the communication skills to have been at that time? So back to the present today. What are some of the challenges that our teenagers and young adults face? In societies around the world, there is so much confusion and so much, they call it disinformation, but it's lies. It's untruths that are being taught and discussed. Morals and ethics, religious foundations and beliefs are not so visible, and certainly the media presents things to our young people that are just really wrong, unheavenly, and just corrupted. So there's a lot of confusion that our young people have to deal with. So as parents, and now as all of us as matching supporters, that can be very helpful for us to recognize that our young people are in the midst of this chaos and confusion. So how can we as parents and matching supporters help them? Help them to be mature and responsible, to be trustworthy, and to own their faith. These are really important considerations. And so let's think about how we can help our children to accompany these tasks. Now, as matching supporters, remember, this is a presentation directed at parents. You all are parents, and so this may apply to you, but it's helpful, I think, information for matching supporters so that we can really think about how we can support parents and families in this matching process to support them. So one thing that's important that we consider and reflect upon is that our parenting styles need to be modified as our children mature. So when children are really little, we make rules, right? We make the rules and they must follow them because they don't really understand the consequences of violating those rules. So we move from controlling and making the rules to becoming role models, being the example. We have to learn to be good listeners so that they can trust us, and to be honest and have high integrity. We need to be mentors and teachers so that we can love and guide, and they will come to us as parents to consult and discuss their challenges. So we move from control to influence, but always with a heart of love, ideally with God's heart of love for our children, and understanding where they're coming from and some of the things that they are dealing with in their lives day by day. So it takes practice, and we can help them by giving them responsibility so that they can take ownership. So when they're really little, their responsibilities are small. As they grow older, we give them more and more responsibility, and sometimes they'll make mistakes, but don't we learn from the mistakes that we've made? And we've all made mistakes, so hopefully we have all learned from those mistakes. So we too, as parents, need to take responsibility for mistakes that we've made. So parents and children both can learn from the mistakes that we've made, even in our relationships. So the matching process is an opportunity. I like to look at every challenge as an opportunity. So by thinking that way, it can help us to learn and to grow through our challenges and difficulties. So in the matching process, we can work together as parents and children and remember that we all want the same thing, and God does as well. And that is happy, successful blessings with an abundance of children and grandchildren. For those of you who are grandchildren, oh my gosh, there is nothing greater, well, that I've experienced. It's amazing the beauty, the love, the experience that God has created through the family. And especially becoming a grandparent is really, really phenomenal. It's amazing. So together, working together, parents and children, and with the support of matching supporters, much of the time, often, you can encourage the families to make a matching plan together, study and learn together, read a family matching handbook, go to programs, Divine Principle, Blessing Education programs. So work together and encourage parents to work together, listening carefully to their sons and daughters. So very often our children are chill. I don't know what words they use these days. Cool, used to be cool, right, in our day. Chill, relaxed, laid back, casual. But this is mom pulling out her hair, right? Sometimes it's painful. Parents don't know what to do. We don't know how to begin the matching process, in part because sometimes our relationships are confused or damaged sometimes. So it can be very helpful to begin with what we call a soft startup. Don't talk about the blessing right away or the divine principle or give the lectures or quote true parents, but how are you doing? How is your day today? How are things going at school or at work, in your hobbies? What are you doing for entertainment? Those kinds of listening to them, trying to encourage them to connect in heart and communication. So you can begin this in the car. That's what some of our cars look like, right? Or after Sunday service, over a cup of coffee, going for a walk, a picnic, taking time together, parent and child together, and really working to connect and communicate and understand where your son or daughter is coming from. And sometimes it can be helpful to have a family meeting, get together as a family and talk about these things. Now, this is what I think about family meetings. I don't like family meetings. To me, they're scary, the term. So I learned not to call it a family meeting, but just to have dinner together, watch a sporting event, go camping, do some event, some activity that everyone in the family can enjoy. So that can be a helpful concept to help to build or rebuild a relationship. And another important tip in rebuilding and even in continuing to grow in a relationship between parents and children, it can be very helpful if we as parents begin with an apology. We have all made mistakes. Maybe yesterday we had a fight or a disagreement with our son or daughter. And to repair that, very often an apology will open hearts. If we begin with a sincere apology, their heart will open. And of course, if it's not sincere, they will know right away, right? Our children are very smart, very sensitive. So we must be sincere. But an apology can really help because we are taking responsibility and not asking them to apologize, but us initiating and taking responsibility. So communication is so, so important. So let's have a quick look at some points that can help in communication. What does good communication look like? All ideas are considered and encouraged. Everyone has a chance to talk and to be heard. What we say here will stay here. In other words, if you're having a sensitive or a confidential conversation with your son or daughter, you don't want to go telling the neighbors or fellow church members or even other children about that sensitive conversation. Keep it confidential. And in communication, everyone is appreciated and respected. So basic communication skills can be very handy, like talking nicely, being respectful as we share our opinion and perspective, listening carefully. And when we talk, we want them to hear what we're saying and understand what we're trying to communicate, right? But also that's what they want. So we sometimes expect they're going to listen, but often we don't return the favor. We don't often, or sometimes we don't listen as carefully as we should. So that's what they really want, is for us just to listen and understand what they're trying to communicate. And sometimes it takes more than love. Telling your children you love them, of course, is really important. But I think it's also really important to demonstrate our love. And one way is to listen. If you've ever had a conversation with a person who really listens carefully and understands what you're talking about and just listens, you know it helps you to feel loved. And for all of our gentlemen, our brothers in this call, one of the things that my wife has been trying very hard to teach me is that she doesn't always need me to solve her problem. She just needs me to listen. So my best advice to brothers and fathers and men in general is really important to learn to listen. Don't talk, just listen. That will help. Ask your wife. Anyway, so learning to listen is really important, but it is a skill. It requires paying attention and it takes practice, like any other good skill. So practice will help us improve. There is a wonderful brother who lives in the San Francisco Bay Area in California. His name is Bento Leal. Some of you may have heard of him. Excuse me. He's a certified marriage and relationship educator. And he talks about something called empathic listening. I had to look that word up in the dictionary, and it means trying to listen to another person with compassion, feeling, and insight, and trying to understand from their point of view what they are trying to communicate. So empathic listening. And he's written a book that is available on Amazon. And I just checked the other day, it's $7 for a Kindle. In other words, a Kindle on Amazon.com, or just under $12 for a printed copy of this book. I think it's in French, I believe, and I know it has been translated to other languages, but You can see the reviews. There are 3,300, over 3,300 reviews, and 4 essential keys to effective communication. I found this book to be really excellent, and highly recommend it to help us to develop skills in listening and talking, in sharing. So effective communication, highly recommended for all of us. So there are some techniques that we can look at, listening techniques. Make eye contact. Look at the person when they are sharing with you. Check your body language. Very often, if you're sitting there with your arms crossed like this, you're kind of putting up a barrier to the other person. So be careful with your body language. When you're listening, offer responses. Oh, I see. Okay. Let them know that you're listening and that you're understanding. And one tip for husbands and wives, sometimes we call or yell from one room to another. Not a really good idea. And the other thing is to turn off cell phones, computers, put down the document, whatever it is, put it down and stop, look at the person and listen very, very carefully. Very important. So here are some tips when you're a listener. So what you're saying is, and then repeat back to them a short summary of what you, a short summary of what you understand they're trying to say. Let me see if I have this right. Is that what you mean? Is there more you'd like to talk about? So these are responses where you are encouraging them to clarify or to continue explaining what they're trying to share with you. And it shows people that you're listening to, whether it's your son or daughter, husband, wife, parent, friend, co-worker, it shows them that you are sincerely trying to understand what they are trying to communicate. And when you share, if you use I statements, this is what I feel, I think, I believe, I understand. And that's your personal expression. So it's hard to argue, but the point is, it doesn't contribute to conflict. You may have a disagreement, you may have different understandings, but when you express what you feel, that's you, that's your perspective, right? So these techniques can reduce the need for the other person to defend themselves. So it's important that we don't become defensive or try to create an environment where they need to feel like they have to defend what they're doing, what they think, what they feel. So I statements can be very helpful. Also, try not to ask dumb or silly or confrontational questions like, why in the heck did you do that? That was stupid. No good, right? We don't want to be judging or criticizing. Listen to their responses carefully to clearly understand what they are trying to share and to say. And there are some other roadblocks or other problems, issues. Try to avoid judging or criticizing. Avoid giving orders or commands. Avoid providing all the solutions. If I were you, I would whatever, blah, blah, right? All the solutions. I got the solutions, listen to me. And one of the things that we members, I have found, are good at is preaching or lecturing. We quote True Father. Well, True Father said, or the Bible says. So preaching and lecturing in a conversation can be destructive or certainly not always beneficial. So try to keep it really simple. Keep it really short when you're expressing your perspective. Be who you are. Don't try to be, father or someone else. You are you, and you are God's son or daughter. Seize the moment. In other words, when your son or daughter comes to share, they have something on their heart or on their mind that they want to talk about, take the opportunity to be there for them. Focus and really be there in the moment with them. Seize the moment, the opportunity. And don't change the topic. Very important to allow them to share where they're at and explain what they're feeling and thinking. So we can help our sons and daughters be ready for the matching and to grow and to mature. When they're young or at opportune times, we can learn together the Hunduke. We can read the matching handbook, help them and work together to create a matching plan, encourage them to create a matching profile and support them as they do that. Reading and studying, doing activities, having quality time together. All of these things can be very helpful to build a relationship and honest communication and to help them to know that they are supported, that we as parents are there to support them. So similarly, matching supporters can do that with sons and daughters of our brothers and sisters. So our young people need to own their faith. They need to know who they are. They need to grow and mature and evolve in their relationships. And it's important too that they have some kind of life skills, at least a career path, goals to earn money and to support their families and a plan for the future. So as our young people grow and mature, we too need to grow and continue to invest. So parents, prayer, and spiritual conditions are so important. Working to bring harmony within our families, so important. Practice listening. Don't ever give up. And keep your word. When you tell your son or daughter you're going to do something, to me, that's sacred. That's a promise. If you're going to do something, it's really important that they know you're going to do it and you do it 100%. So keep your word. It's very important. Matching is the ultimate team effort. And we have to remember we're on the same team. We work together for the common hope and goal. And God wants this as well. Remember, the family is the only institution created by God. All the rest are man created, right? Politics and communities, societies, all of those things we created, but God created the family. That's the fundamental institution that God created. So here are some resources that can be helpful. I did mention yesterday the bfm.familyfed.org website, which has a lot of webinars, videos. The matching handbooks are available there. There are a number of resources on the BFM Family Fed. So of course you are all welcome, and I would encourage your parents also to join or to sign up to bfm.familyfed.org, and then they can access some of these resources. Of course, matching supporters and pastors can be really instrumental in supporting parents. And that's why all of you are here today, because you want to take on this role of support for our families and our singles. So here are some more resources, and I can send these or you can take a screenshot if you'd like, and most of these you probably know about already. A lot of these books are available in multiple languages, but I do encourage each one of them to be at least considered as a support information. And here are some things that I encourage parents to consider. Building relationships. Go on a date night every single week. So I know, as matching supporters and church leaders, providential leaders, we are all very, very busy. but a fundamental, important relationship, of course, as husband and wife. It's so important. So I encourage you as well to schedule a date night at every week, a date night, have quality time as husband and wife and or with the children. But as parents and husband and wife, it's important to have time together. And you can do volunteer work together, clean the streets. I don't know about your city or town, but here in our Western Canada, our streets are constantly in need of garbage collection. So that can be, go to church together, go to some sports or activity, witness together, go for a cup of coffee, just a walk. Find out what your spouse's love language is, and that will help you spend quality time, buy them flowers, give them gifts, whatever. But those are really, really important activities to do together. So there are some suggestions. Debbie Gullery, one of our teachers here in America, anyway, has this video called The Power of One. So very often in husband-wife relationships, one of the spouses is not really capable or perhaps interested in contributing to building a better relationship. So what does the other spouse do? I really want to improve my relationship, but my husband, my wife is not really helpful or supportive in this way. So Debbie has this video called The Power of One. In other words, what you can do or what that one person can do to help to build a relationship. And then there's also a link here, and I can send this to Reverend Bougre and he can make it available to you. Some parenting videos. So there's a link there on some ideas and suggestions, some guidance for becoming a better, improving parenting skills. So thank you very much. This presentation is, as I explained, intended for parents in building a better relationship with their sons and daughters. And I found it to be very well received, and I hope that it can be very helpful for you and for your families and communities. So I don't know if we want to take questions now or take a short break, or should I just go right into the next presentation? What's best, Reverend Bougre? Take a break. Take a break? Okay. Okay.
Oh, merci beaucoup. Mon micro était fermé là tout à l'heure. OK, donc je pense que il est bon peut-être qu'après une présentation comme ça, 1 à 2 questions. Voilà, s'il y a des questions, comme ça, le conférencier peut les répondre et puis on peut passer à la deuxième conférence, hein, pour gagner un peu en temps. S'il y a des questions. Pour cette conférence? Non? OK. Donc, dans ce cas contraire, on va prendre 5 minutes de pause. Let's take a short break. 5 minutes.
5 minutes, sure. Perfect.
Thank
Gives
you.
me time to sip my coffee.
Okay. Thank you.
From Cameroon.
Okay. OK. Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Merci à tout le monde pour la pause de 5 minutes qui vient de s'achever. Nous allons maintenant repartir sans plus tarder, toujours avec le même conférencier. Cette fois-ci sur le deuxième thème en ce qui concerne le rôle des matching supporters et des points importants pour eux. Donc, notre conférencier aura 20 minutes pour développer ce thème. Donc, nous allons l'accueillir encore une fois de plus avec vos ovations très nourries.
Thank you all very much. So the next presentation is the matching supporter training, a series of videos that we've developed, and I hope it's valuable for you. So this is the matching supporter training, and I've tried to update it or at least edit it so that it applies to our African families. Of course, the process is the same worldwide, and we work together. I know the BFD directors meet frequently to discuss each of these points so that we can have the same a true parents guided process throughout our movement around the world. So in the family matching process, parents have the authority for matching their children, and matching supporters are in the role of supporting the candidate and the family. In the process for single members, when parents are not involved, in other words, are blessed children whose parents have left the movement or not capable or able to support their children, then the matching supporter can take a parental role for the candidate. And we've started to call those matching supporters blessing parents, because we're helping singles go to the blessing, get to the blessing, but they're not necessarily our physical children. So I hope that's not confusing. But so as matching supporters, we can help families, we can help singles who are on the path to the blessing rather than parents, or hopefully along with their parents if they're in our movement. So we'll have a quick look at the role of the matching supporter, and these are guidelines that have come from international headquarters, as well as developed and evolved with our movement over the years. So our matching supporters are volunteers, feel called to the work, and they often have specific hours or days that they can offer their time. But one thing as a matching supporter I feel is very important is that you lay out what time frame you can offer as a matching supporter. You have a lot of other responsibilities. So being a matching supporter, first of all, it's important that you feel called to do this work. You're motivated, but also you have to set out guidelines sometimes and restrictions sometimes. So for myself, I prefer an email. If somebody telephones me, if it's Reverend Bo Gray or Reverend Valentine, I will pick up instantly. But most of the time, I don't answer phone calls. I want someone to schedule a meeting time with me. So matching supporters are trustworthy, good listeners, respectful of confidentiality. Sometimes we're told things that in confidence that are a little bit sensitive. We have to be very careful to respect confidentiality. We need to become effective communicators, and sometimes we are able to connect people in different categories, different situations in life, different countries. So matching supporters can be connectors as well. Matching supporters have trained and certified by the BFD Shin Africa and may need to requalify every year. So we found in the early days of training and working with matching supporters that very often they just would lose interest or were too busy, but their name was still listed as an available matching supporter. So we we decided it would be important to re-qualify all of our matching supporters at least once a year. So we designed a 12-question quiz, very simple quiz for them to take at least once a year, just to reaffirm and to refresh their qualifications as a matching supporter. So I can forward that to Reverend Bougray, and if you feel that you want to use it, Reverend Bougray, you're certainly welcome to copy it or whatever. But anyway, I can make it available. So that's we found to be very helpful, very simple, but very helpful. Matching supporters often serve a particular community or geographic area, or they could work with special needs, with first generation, any age of blessed children, married couples, associate members. So we can choose what area. And sometimes some of us will work in every area, right? Because there is support that's needed for every one of those categories. Matching supporters understand the guidelines for the matching process and are familiar with the best practices and tools available for matching. So the process can vary from country to country and continent to continent, and it's important to communicate with the BFD in your country or in Africa to be sure that you are aware of the guidelines in your particular region. Matching supporters should be careful not to do more for the candidate than they are doing for themselves. Sometimes even parents will come and they'll say to you, "Can you find a match for my son or daughter?" We are not matchers. We don't do matches. We support families and we support candidates. With first generation, one of the responsibilities that we have is to reach out to find potential matches. But that doesn't mean we match them, but we can introduce them to each other and they can decide for themselves as they meet and share together whether it's going to be a powerful and good relationship that they can work on. So as matching supporters, the websites and the resources, it's important that we're at least familiar with them so that we can guide parents and candidates in using them. The matching websites, of course, are a blessing for you. And the one in North America that many African members are using is the online matching system that I mentioned yesterday. Matching supporters, communicate your schedule of availability and how you prefer to communicate. So as I mentioned earlier, I want people to email me or WhatsApp, whatever, but I want them to communicate with me, and then we can set up a time and a way to communicate. Identify, build networks within our unification community, connect and interact with local, national, international network of matching supporters as much as possible. So even the PMC that Shin Africa is promoting coming up in a few weeks, in what, 2 weeks, shortly, that's a good way for matching supporters to get to know each other and to become aware of potential candidates in Africa, but also in other countries around the world. So I encourage matching supporters to participate in all of those activities as much as possible. In North America, and hopefully we can have an ongoing retraining for all of our matching supporters around the world, partly because the Providence is moving forward at a rapid rate, right? And the process evolves. So sometimes it's difficult to keep up when mother says, now we're going to do this, or now we need that. Matching supporters hopefully can become aware of providential changes and how it evolves. And so ongoing training can be very helpful. So these are points that can be important for matching supporters to be aware of. Helping to educate families and others in the matching process, helping families to understand the process that is recommended and some good techniques to encourage them. For example, showing a family the matching plan, the worksheet, can be very helpful for a family to get started in the matching process, especially if they don't know where to begin. So those kinds of techniques as matching supporters can be very helpful for families. So when you accept a candidate, somebody who comes to you, whether a parent or a single, and says, "Can you help me in the matching process?" Sure. So first, here are some steps that we encourage you to encourage families. Encourage them to build unity. Get to know each other, have time, quality time together. Help them to learn about the matching process, the step-by-step process that we outlined yesterday, and that you can help them to understand more clearly. Build a personal relationship with them so that you get to know their family culture, the way they think and feel and interact with each other. Ask questions to get to know them well enough so that you can feel confident to help them in the matching process. Encourage the applicant and the parents to fill out the matching plan worksheet and then read it together with them, and ask questions for clarification so that you, the parents, and the child can begin to understand and make specific goals and guidelines for the matching, the process itself, and potential candidates. So reading the matching plan and working together with them can be very helpful. Encourage them to become an official candidate. So encourage the single to be qualified, take the blessing education, do the purity interview, the medical tests, have the fast, set spiritual conditions. As much as possible, it's important for candidates to be qualified. And those are the kinds of things that are really important for you as a matching supporter to be aware of, because if they are not making effort, you are not able to help them. There is their responsibility, and you are a supporter of them as a candidate and as a family. So it's important that they take responsibility. So here are some important guidelines that we found are really helpful, and these are international guidelines and specific to each area. So special situations. This is really highly recommended, and I don't know if it's a policy in Africa, but for all intergenerational relationships, because there are specific situations that are unique when a BC, a blessed child, wants to have a relationship or become matched to a first generation candidate. As matching supporters, it's important that we don't encourage that kind of relationship. On the other hand, we don't have the authority to say no, but there are guidelines that True Mother has established for these relationships. So it's important as matching supporters to refer them directly to the BFD so that the BFD can give them specific guidance. So that's intergeneration, where a BC, a blessed child, and a first generation feel that they want to go to the blessing together. So all situations where special grace is needed, once again, those should be referred to the BFD, keeping confidence if need be. So when a person does a blessing interview, that interview is confidential. A purity interview, that is confidential, but it's important to refer that candidate and their family to the BFD so that they can receive guidance and special grace if they need it. So any situation that isn't completely clear as matching supporters, it's important to consult and connect with the BFD. So applicants should be fully qualified as candidates before beginning the matching process. This is a recommendation. In many instances, they're not fully qualified yet, but they're working on it perhaps during the matching process, and they must become candidates qualified candidates before they can go to the blessing, of course. So it's important as matching supporters that we encourage them to work on and become qualified. And also, when I recommend a potential match to my candidates, the people that I'm working with, I always recommend beginning with a person who is a qualified candidate first. So when we're looking for a match, the candidate, a candidate is already the most qualified because they've made the investment to become a candidate. So that, in my opinion, is very important to encourage our singles to become qualified candidates in the process itself. Applicants should at least complete a purity interview. In America, we call it a blessing interview. Purity interview or confession before beginning a conversation if they're not already a qualified candidate. This is a recommendation. It doesn't always happen, but in Africa, a person who needs special grace, in other words, who has had a fallen sexual relationship outside of the blessing, they need to receive the special grace forgiveness from true parents, and they're not supposed to begin a matching conversation until they receive special grace. So consult with the BFD if you come across situations like that as a matching supporter. A profile cannot be visible on Blessing for You or on OMS if they need to receive special grace. So their profile cannot be visible. They can have a profile there, but it's not approved. It won't be visible so that other parents or candidates can access that profile. If a BC has had a fallen sexual relationship, one thing that sometimes we neglect is that they really need to be supported. They've made a mistake. Hopefully they are repenting and taking responsibility, but we need to try our best to have God's heart. So to love them, encourage them, support them, encourage them to make Jungsong conditions and to connect with their parents so that they're together with their parents, they can make these forgiveness conditions that heaven can acknowledge and recognize and receive. If Adam and Eve had repented right away after they had their sexual relationship, don't we think that God would have been able to forgive them? He probably would have said, okay, do this, this, and this, and then there would be no fall. The fall would have been forgiven. So their children, anyway, I wasn't there, so I don't know, but it seems to me that God would have forgiven them and their children or grandchildren at least could have been born without original sin. So we really need to love and embrace people who have made these mistakes. They are God's children. In the North America, they can begin a conversation if they need special grace, but they must be absolutely honest with their potential match. So it's a little bit sensitive, but in Africa, candidates who need special grace cannot begin a conversation. Every candidate, so in a relationship with parents and with a matching supporter, every candidate's input and priorities are encouraged and respected. So we talked a little bit earlier about communication skills. So candidates, it's important that they feel and believe and know that, trust that their opinion is respected. Out of respect for one another, candidates must only pursue a match with one candidate at a time. So when a family has been contacted, it's important then that the profile is put on hold and they are not available any longer for another matching conversation with a different family. So one candidate at a time. Could we mute? There's somebody that's live there. Thank you. So when parents or a matching supporter is considering someone for their candidate, all the communication should go through that's someone's parent or matching supporter. So this means we as matching supporters should avoid going to a candidate and saying, are you matched? Are you blessed? if we see someone that could be a good potential match for our candidate, we as matching supporters should contact their parents or their matching supporter to be sure that the process is vertical. So to not go around the parents, that's one of important responsibility of matching supporters. And when you're working with a candidate, communicate with the parents as well and try to build relationships between the parent and the child. If candidates decide to explore a potential match, hopefully along with their families, the two families, they should spend a recommended 7 months to get to know one another, develop a relationship of trust, and solidify their commitment before making a final matching decision. So this is recommendation. This is not a law, not a rule. It's a recommendation. And we have found historically that it has helped to build healthy relationships, to take the time to get to know each other and to make a commitment, and to meet at least one time in person before becoming committed to each other. Candidates must fully disclose their personal history, so to be really, really honest with their potential match. It's very important that they don't keep secrets. So this will build trust and will avoid embarrassing or breaking of trust if something is lied about or hidden in building a relationship. Very, very important that they are honest with their potential match. And only true parents have the authority to make matches. Of course, leaders can make suggestions, and that can be a little bit difficult because, as was explained yesterday, when a leader makes a recommendation, a candidate and a family want to unite with that leader and may not take full and complete responsibility personally to make that relationship deep and meaningful, to take responsibility. So it's very important that families are given the responsibility, even by leaders. And when leaders make a recommendation for a potential match, that they clearly give the family and the candidate responsibility to make the commitment. And this is directly from True Parents. Father said specifically, you must take responsibility. So the outline of the matching process, I don't know if we want to pause, but I think we should just keep going unless there are some questions that you'd like to bring up at this time, Reverend Bougre. Because of the time, I probably should keep going.
Bon, d'accord. Okay. C'est noté.
Okay, keep going. Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, good. So the outline of the matching process for matching supporters, we did cover some of this yesterday in the parental guidelines. You know, when we talk to parents, we talk about formation, growth, and completion. And of course, the goal is to go to the blessing. So there are some phases in the matching process. Now, as matching supporters, you have a little bit of a different viewpoint from parents. It's parallel, similar, but not really, it's not identical. So an optional tool that is available in North America is this thing called MatchNet. It's at bfmeducation.org. And there is a free connection which just has a very basic introduction to the matching process that is free when you go to bfmeducation.org, or candidates can pay $12.99 a month, and then there's a lot more information, videos and everything that can be available to them. I'm not trying to promote this. This is not an advertisement. This is just an option that can be available. And this is being it will be discontinued in a few months. There is another program that is being designed that will replace this. So that's why it's a monthly charge and not an annual one like it used to be. So when this was designed, the intent was to make it available internationally, but it was difficult to kind of process it that way. So anyway, so it does have a lot of valuable information that can be very helpful, and it's part of the BFM familyfed.org website. So in preparation, parents and candidates, these are points once again that you as matching supporters can encourage. So a spiritual foundation of unity between the parents, candidate, matching supporter, the matching team, offering conditions, prayer and hunduke, morning devotion, unity with the pastor, regular tithing, attending Sunday service, volunteering. These are all important conditions that can be very helpful for candidates and families as they prepare for the matching process. Some countries will not allow a candidate to be in the matching process unless they go to Sunday service, unless they tithe on a regular basis. So there are some requirements in some countries that may be a little bit different from Africa or North America. So, but these are all very helpful for candidates to prepare, set a spiritual foundation for them to move into the matching and the blessing process. So True Parents gave the responsibility for matching to parents, and only parents have the authority to make matches for their children, but it is a family supported process and the candidate should have the final say. A matching supporter may be asked to support the family if the family wants their help. So matching supporters are not required for families, but we can be there to support if they want us to help out. And of course, parents should be empowered and encouraged to take responsibility. It is their responsibility. So between applicants and parents, we can help them to encourage unity, to ensure that they listen to their son or daughter, really understand where their son or daughter is coming from. I had one instance where a young lady had met a person at Sun Moon University. They were both students in Korea at Sun Moon, and they met each other and they felt that they would like to be matched together. They reported to their parents, and all of the parents except one, three parents were very positive, very supportive. It took 1 year for the fourth parent to agree to allow this couple to become a matched, and now they are happily blessed, both working in the church with UPF. But the one father felt that it's the parents' responsibility to introduce the children. So this is something that you might encounter, but I believe that God can work even when children meet each other, as long as it's reported vertically, as long as parents are involved. So this is one thing that you as a matching supporter might come across. So yeah, so please be aware of that, and of course do your very best to support and enable communication between parents and children within the family. Candidates who joined with their parents, very often we call these Jacob generation, but they still are first generation members, right? But the parents, of course, want to be involved. Of course, they should be able to help to match their children. Just as a note on Blessing for You, parents with Jacob generation do not have access to search for potential candidates. So one of the things that International BFD has given permission for us to do is to give those parents access as matching supporters to Blessing for You, so that they can search for matches for their children if their children are first generation. So I hope that's not confusing, but anyway, that's the way Matching for You is set up, and it needs to be changed. But that's right now. That's what International BFD has, and Reverend Bougray and I can talk more about that if that's helpful. If the parents are supporting the process, first generation do not need to have a matching supporter. Same as a blessed family, right? With blessed children. Matching supporters can support the candidate and the family if the family asks for support. As first generation members, their matching supporter can use Blessing for You. So matching supporters have access to Blessing for You, but the parents do not when they have children who are first generation. OMS can be very helpful in that regard, because they allow communication anonymously between candidates. So that's one big advantage that OMS has over Blessing for You in that regard. So what if the family is not able to function as a unit? There are many times when parents go to a different sect or they leave our movement. They don't help the children who want to receive the cosmic blessing from our true parents. And in a case like this, it's helpful if we as matching supporters try to build some kind of unity in the family, or work in the parental role to take responsibility for that candidate, even if it's a blessed child, because the BC also needs to receive the blessing, especially if that's their goal, that's their hope, their vision, right? We really want to encourage and support them. So almost always families come closer in the matching process, but it's important for us as matching supporters to offer what we can to support candidates and families in that situation. The role of the matching supporter for first gen and BCs whose parents are not involved, matching supporters in the vertical parental position. Matching supporter needs to be in close communication with the candidate so we can understand what the candidate's goals and vision and hopes and dreams are. So whether they're first generation or BC, these are important guidelines. It's really important that we get to know our candidates so that we can help them, guide them in the matching process. And matching supporters need to search for potential matches on behalf of their first generation candidates. So I hope that's clear and not too confusing, that we should have another Blessing for You meeting perhaps, but that's something else. That's another topic anyway. So getting to know your candidate, this is so very, very important, especially if you are their only support. If the parents are not involved as a matching supporter, this is very important. Ask them about their life. What are they doing? What do they love? Ice cream, chocolate, coffee. Find out who they are and what kinds of things that they really love in their lives. What can they give up and what do they want to change about their lives? Ask about their relationships to parents and siblings, friends. Ask about their future ideals, partner roles, parental role, church relationships. So these are techniques that you as matching supporters can use to help to get to know your candidates more deeply, more and more. So help them to educate, to become educated in the matching process. The Blessing Education in Africa is a 21-day workshop, so encourage them to participate, even if they feel they're not really ready or they're not sure about the matching or the blessing. It still can be very helpful for them to understand what it's all about. Why is it important that they participate in the blessing? So going to a Blessing Education workshop can be very, very helpful, even if they're not quite ready. And then that will help them become ready, right, when the time does come. So here are some questions that can be helpful to ask them am I becoming the best person I can be? In other words, fulfilling the first blessing, right? Become fruitful. Do I understand the value and the meaning of the blessing and how important it is? And am I ready for marriage? So these are questions that can be helpful for candidates to understand where they're at in the matching process. Understanding the divine principle we know is really, really critical. So encourage them to attend workshops, to watch videos, to study the divine principle, and to learn about it. Becoming a candidate. So for first generation, most of, I'm not sure about Africa, but in most of the world, we ask for at least a 1-year membership so that we know that they're really committed to our movement. And we ask them to tithe and to do volunteer work. And of course, they must be single. If they've been married in the past, they must be divorced, legally divorced. If they've been blessed before, they must have a blessing dissolution before they can be matched and blessed again. They should do a 3-day fast. These are guidelines from True Parents. Of course, they need to accept True Parents. And how do we know that? Well, understanding the DP, accepting the family pledge, witnessing and bringing spiritual children. These are all helpful for individuals to become qualified candidates in the matching process. And also, I feel it's important for the pastor to write a letter of recommendation, just stating that they've known them for a period of time, they're preparing for the blessing, or they're ready for the matching in the blessing, they're a good quality person, etc. Sometimes people drift into our movement and just want to find a spouse, and they don't really care about God or True Parents, and that can be dangerous for our candidates. So I feel it's important for us to have a recommendation from their pastor, and so that they can be spiritually connected. So also they should become a candidate. They may need to receive special grace if they're a single blessed child and they've made a mistake in the past. Education, of course, divine principle ongoing, blessing education workshops. And Mother has recommended 20 years of age at the time of the blessing as a minimum age to receive the blessing. This is a recommendation. For first generation, we can say yes or no. The BFD has the authority to do that. For blessed children, if the families consent, then usually we have to say okay, right? But that would be up to the BFD. So if you come across situations like that, please consult with the BFD to be sure that this particular family should be allowed and encouraged to go to the next blessing. So those are important points in becoming a candidate. Preparation, of course, externally, there is a blessing offering that is very important. It's a spiritual offering. And sometimes people refer to the offering, the blessing fee, as a fee. It's not. It's not a fee. It's an offering of gratitude to True Parents and to God for allowing this amazing opportunity to participate in the blessing. Anyway, so if we can, as matching supporters, can explain that to our candidates and our families, that this is an offering that should be made sincerely to God and to heaven. Other expenses, of course, travel, blessing attire. You know, Mother wants all of our candidates now to wear these beautiful suits and dresses, and of course to have the newer rings and accessories. So there are costs, financial costs, that are associated with the blessing that we can help our young people and our families to prepare for ahead of time, at least to be aware of the need for those expenses and costs. So in the matching process, the matching plan I've talked a lot about, and I did talk about it yesterday. It can really help with communication. So as a matching supporter, it can be a tremendous tool for you and for helping families to get started and to communicate and understand where each other are at as far as searching for a potential match, a potential eternal partner. So the matching plan can help with communication. It can help to clarify a candidate. Very often a candidate will say, how do I know if I'm ready? How do I know if I'm ready for the matching? And one of the tools that can be helpful for them is to do a matching plan worksheet, because there are questions there that will stimulate them to be thinking about these various points that can help them to be preparing for the matching process. So the matching plan can help to build unity, can help to clarify important details, and also can help the spirit world to support. This is one thing that very often we forget, I feel, in the matching process. We need to mobilize the spirit world. We've all been working hard to liberate our ancestors, right? And those ancestors are desperate to help. So a matching plan and, of course, prayer and conditions, etc., can help to mobilize the spirit world. We really can use the help and support of spirit world. Having said that, you'll remember yesterday I suggested or said that one thing that's really important is that because we don't know who is speaking to us from the spirit world, if they are a principled spirit, one of our righteous ancestors, we don't know for sure that they're giving us wise or truthful guidance. So in any case, we need to take responsibility. As a single candidate and as a family, we need to take responsibility for our potential and future match. So in the matching plan, we encourage them to print 2 copies. Parents complete 1, candidates complete 1, and then they work together to make one matching plan. And that matching plan can be very helpful for matching supporters and parents as we reach out to find a potential match. So one of the questions is the team, the matching team, and we did talk about this yesterday, but it can be very helpful. So I just want to encourage you to encourage your candidates to set up a matching team and a prayer team. If there are some that are just offering prayers and don't necessarily have a proactive role, that can be very, very helpful. We need to mobilize the spirit world to help us. Potential team members could be, of course, the candidate, parents, and siblings, but other church members who know the family, who know the candidate, matching supporters, close friends, pastors, ministry leaders. This does not have to be a big team. These are only optional people or recommendations that could be on a matching team. And it could be that the family will only have mom and dad and the candidate, and that's all. Maybe they'll consult you as a matching supporter for your support as well. So the team is up to them how they feel they can work together. So 7 months is recommended. And that, as I said yesterday, can be 10 periods of 21 days each. If they break it up into sections of 21 days, at the end of each 21-day period, they can evaluate where they've come from, what they've gone through, what they've talked about, what things are not yet clear. And that can help them to move forward or to evaluate whether or not this is really a good potential match. So rather than waiting for several months and then deciding, no, it's not going to work, if they evaluate every 21 days, they can have a better and more clear and communicate more clearly what they are feeling and experiencing as far as the matching process is concerned. So 21-day periods can be very, very helpful. And to think of each other as friends and brother and sister so that they don't get too intense in the quote matching process. So meeting at least one time in person is important. Ongoing conditions, reading Unduke, studying various relationship books like Real Love, 101 questions to ask before you get engaged. These are all helpful tools and books and resources that they can read and study together as they're getting to know each other and as they're communicating with each other. So this one is in red because it's really important. In the beginning of a matching process, it's important that it is communicated if this is a conversation or do we feel like they're matched already. I mentioned yesterday that some countries and some parents feel as soon as they start talking, they're matched. So if that's the case, then it's very, very important that this is communicated in the very beginning. We have some blessings that are breaking up now, sadly. And many times it's because one family assumed that they were matched already and they went into this conversation period or just went to the blessing. They didn't get to know each other. They didn't take personal responsibility. There were some things that were confusing or not revealed and expressed and discussed with each other before they went to the blessing. So now those blessings are breaking. So that's the one of the very important things that we as matching supporters can help with, to encourage them to be really clear and to really make a commitment to take responsibility individually. So that's very, very important. Please remember, as you're supporting your families, to encourage them to take responsibility and to be really clear. What is this? Is it a matching or is it a conversation and communication preparation for the matching? So life goals, this is still the matching plan worksheet. Life goals, core values, and vision. The candidate can write their responses, and this can help a candidate to evaluate where are they at. Have they got a plan or a vision for their future? What do you think about marriage? What are the roles? Will you work and your spouse will stay home and take care of the children? Those are very important things for them to consider. And I know some countries, the man is the one who's supposed to be the breadwinner, goes out and works, and mom stays home. I have a son who has taken care of their child while his wife works. She's a school teacher, and he is very loving and embracing of his. They only have one son, unfortunately, but he stayed home. He did the cooking and cleaning, taking care of everything at home domestically. So the roles should be discussed even before they become a couple, so that it's really clear. So goals and core values, what are the deal breakers? What do you require in a match and a spouse? And I would encourage you as matching supporters to encourage your candidates to not be too restrictive. In other words, be open. Consider that God may have a different vision of their spouse than I do or than he or she does. So encourage them to not be too restrictive. Sometimes they restrict the age or the cultural background or the language that they can speak. And some of those can be very, very important in each individual, but sometimes they become just too restrictive, and then God in the spirit world can't work so easily to find their best partner. So these important questions, this refers to questions that may be asked of a potential match before a conversation begins. So what are the things like level of purity, life of faith? Are they really connected to our movement, or are they kind of borderline? Those are important. What is their lifestyle? What does their future look like? Are they still studying? So those kinds of things, those are important questions that can perhaps be asked of a candidate before a matching discussion begins. And then, of course, where to find potential candidates. And the matching websites are one source, but only one. Steps when a candidate is found, when is the candidate involved, and when does the suggestion become a recommendation? So, for example, after a 21-day introductory discussion, you recommend this person. So I hope this is clear. These are the questions in the matching plan worksheet. This is not a required, but it's only a tool that can be very helpful to help clarify where people are at, what their vision is, and what their hopes and ideals are for finding their potential best friend, their soulmate. So I've mentioned a couple times that meeting in person is really important. And the first meeting I encourage to be quite short. A weekend is good because it's a short time together that they can get an idea of who the other person is and how they relate to each other. So some activity is good. They go to a museum, or they go for go to the park, go on picnics, or whatever activities they can do with other families even, but to have time as two people together as a brother and sister getting to know each other. And ideally, parents or siblings should travel with children if they're going to a different city or country to meet their potential match. It's very helpful to have someone there that is trusting and trustable to help and to support, to be there, to talk with, and to really help to understand if this will be the best person. So meeting in person is important. When first generation meet with each other, it's difficult because they don't have family. And for you as a matching supporter to travel with them, maybe that could happen, but that would be rare. So in a case like that, what I encourage is for you as a matching supporter to encourage the matching supporter of the other candidate who usually is in the same city, right, or same area, or a pastor or someone in the movement in that city where the match is, where the candidate is that they're visiting, encourage them to pick them up at the airport or meet them at the bus depot or to offer accommodations so that they can feel supported, so that this potential couple can have people there supporting and encouraging and guiding them if need be. So those are kind of extra goals that matching supporters can support with, but can be very, very important in helping candidates in the process itself. So should we keep going, Reverend Bougray, take another break? Are we doing? I'm not watching the clock. I'm sorry. I'm just going on.
Le chapitre, si on l'a fini, on va prendre une pause.
It's not over. We still have, so we can keep going then. Maybe it's better if everybody is still okay. Yeah.
Donc,
Yeah.
on peut prendre une pause de 5 minutes pour que les gens puissent s'aérer et à leur besoin et toilettes et tout ça. 5 minutes. Okay.
Good.
Thank you. Bon, on va faire une
Okay.
pause de 5
Perfect.
minutes.
Thank you for translating, by the way. I know it's not easy. God bless you.
OK, merci beaucoup. Nous allons reprendre après la pause de 5 minutes pour continuer avec la formation, que ce soit...
Thank you very much. Welcome back, everyone. I want to say that being a matching support.
Oh, okay, let's go.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
No, let's go, no problem. Yeah, go on. You have the
Ready?
floor.
Okay. Thank you, Reverend Bougre. Sorry, I didn't realize. I was saying that one of the most rewarding experiences that I have in our movement is being a matching supporter, because as a matching supporter, we have the opportunity to help single members, whether they're blessed children or first generation, receive the blessing to have children, pure, blessed, sinless children. And it's so inspiring when we are able to do that and to see and experience the fruits of our efforts and our investment. So it's very, very rewarding. So I want to encourage all of you to have a vision and have a hope, and to really continue to help families as much as possible. So this next section, now some of this that we're going to look at now, we did cover yesterday, so I'll go pretty quickly because it's a repeat of what we did yesterday. But as a matching supporter, most of the time we have to have a little bit of a different attitude, right? We have to be thinking this is the parent and candidate responsibility, and I am here to support them, to help to guide them. So it's a little bit of a different perspective that we take as a matching supporter. So finding a candidate, sources and a candidate's suggestion is important, because I've mentioned several times, sometimes parents don't acknowledge that their children may be able to find a wonderful match. And so as matching supporters, we can help to encourage parents to consider a candidate that their son or daughter has requested or recommended. Also witnessing, and sometimes our first generation members don't think about witnessing to find their spouse. So blessed children, we want, of course, for them to receive a spouse who is already a blessed child in our movement. But first generation can be witnessing and finding their spouse outside of our movement, and then teaching them the principle and bringing them to true parents, right, to receive the blessing. Matching supporters or parents may have suggestions, obviously. Family, friends, matching team, all of those could have suggestions for potential matching candidates that sometimes we as matching supporters will be asked to follow up on, or to reach out, to contact and ask if they're available for a possible matching conversation. So profiles, and especially some of our matching meetings, PMCs, etc., that we promote and encourage, profiles can be a really good way to introduce candidates. I mentioned yesterday the Connect retreat that is hosted virtually. We've had several African members participate in the virtual retreats that we just had one a month ago, and there are still conversations that are following up between men and women in as a result of that retreat. So those are really good opportunities for candidates. There is a Facebook group called UC Singles Network, and the last time I checked, there were well over 500 single members, first gen and BC, of all ages. If you're married or blessed, sorry, you can't join. It's only for singles, but that gives them a chance to connect and interact with each other. Convocations, of course, and matching supporters can do outreach and help to find potential candidates. So these are some sources of potential matching candidates. And of course, bcmatching.org, A Blessing for You, and OMS at chonilguk.org are the two matching websites that I'm familiar with, and both of them I know work very well. So I once again encourage your candidates, first gen and second gen, and also special needs. There are categories on both of those websites for children who may have some disabilities. So they too can be active in the matching process. And before profiles can be visible, they need to be candidates, and BCs must have had a purity interview or be a qualified candidate in order for their profile to be visible on Blessing for You. So matching supporters very often are asked to do a screening process. So I have one candidate, for example, who is wonderful, wonderful young woman. Her father passed away several years ago, and her mother has health challenges, etc. So she will sometimes look at the profiles with her mother or hear about a potential matching candidate, and then they contact me for my opinion. I'm kind of like a father figure because her physical father passed away. So I will evaluate to the best of my ability and make some suggestions. I try not to push one way or another. I encourage her to pray and really reflect, but very often, if they feel it could be a good match, they'll ask me to reach out to the family to ask if their son or daughter is available for a matching, or in this case, their son is available for a matching process, and is he a candidate? And if there are any other questions, for example, would he be willing to move to join her, or those kinds of questions, matching supporters very often will be asked to do. So in the screening process, in other words, we found a candidate, so now what do? We can help to screen them and evaluate anything that looks like a red flag or something we're not sure would work, would be compatible with our candidate. So we can help to be sure that their core values and their goals in life match up. In other words, do they have similar faith commitments? Are they fairly close, or at least can they be compatible? Are there any red flags or deal breakers? And sometimes we'll be the ones who will do the outreach to ask those sometimes sensitive questions. So matching supporters can help to screen. And one thing, once again, is that the family and the candidate, whether BC or first generation, must be active in the process. They must really demonstrate that they are making a commitment to this matching. You don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste heaven's time. You don't want to waste other families' time if your candidate is not sincerely seeking their potential match. So it's important that the family and the candidate are making investments, doing prayers, setting conditions, doing research, whatever, so that they really are active in the process. In international matching, because sometimes communication and different traditions and customs can be challenging, one of the things we recommend is that a matching supporter is involved to help to evaluate and balance consideration, to reflect on the consideration of potential candidates if there are differences. And so internationally, it can be very helpful for matching supporters to be involved with families. So if possible, as matching supporters, we can clarify whether or not a candidate, an individual is a qualified candidate. And we can do that by contacting other matching supporters, contacting the BFD in that country, and or the pastor, who is often mentioned in the profile. So ensure that candidates are qualified in their countries, and help build communication and sometimes translation. So if you are fluent in French, for example, you might be able to help a French-speaking family if they're reaching out to an English-speaking family, for example. So translation can be very helpful, something that matching supporters often can offer. And educate all parties about the process that is recommended by the BFD in Shin Africa. Consider other issues. So if they are a professional, an engineer or a medical person, or can they move to another country and still work in their profession? So they might be a nurse or have some skill that qualifies them in their country of residence. And it will be important for them to evaluate whether or not they can move to another country and still work in their profession. So it's important that couples evaluate and consider that. And one note there, you can see it says, International BFD has asked that couples receive the blessing before getting married. In the past, we had couples who would get married for immigration purposes and then receive the blessing. But the International Blessed Family Department has asked that they receive the blessing first, even if it delays the immigration process if they're in different countries. So that might change, but at this point, as far as I know, that is still the guideline. That is, it certainly was a restricted guideline. So Reverend Bougray can inform you for sure on that. Considering cultural okay, so it still is, Reverend Bougray is saying, yes, it still is important that couples receive the blessing first. So it's the internal vertical first, and then the external marriage after the blessing. So that's important, and that still is the guideline now. So it's important for cultural differences to evaluate, as I mentioned earlier, gender roles in marriage. Do they expect that mom will stay home and take care of the children and all the housework and all that? I mentioned my son, and their relationship is really beautiful. So please help families to be open to the possibility that mom may be the breadwinner, the person who works and earns a living. And also building relationship with the families is also very important. So some country leaders are making matches. We did talk about that. It's important that deep prayer and sincere commitment to the matching is made by the parents and especially the candidate. In other words, they really must take ownership of that process. And sometimes, we're in a hurry because mother wants, is it 10,000 couples in 2025? She wants a significant number of couples at the blessing in 2025. So sometimes we short circuit it just to make the goal. We want to push candidates to make a commitment. And sometimes it's dangerous to encourage them to make a commitment before they're really ready to do it. But we really have to pray hard and respect our guidelines, especially coming from Mother and International BFD and Shin Africa BFD. So the customs and the goals are important to fulfill and consider with deep, deep prayer. So in the introduction phase, this is what we can consider the growth phase. This is the exciting time when you found a candidate, you're introducing them to a potential match, and now they're beginning an introduction period when they get to know each other to consider a possible matching. So encourage your candidate to be prepared to dress nicely if they're going to be meeting their spouse on FaceTime or on Zoom or on a Skype or however they meet each other. Have them, shave, comb their hair, make them look heavenly, encourage them. to look nice and because it's a reflection of who they are internally, right? So they may want to just begin as friends, and that's one thing that I've been encouraging candidates. Sometimes thinking about the matching can be really intimidating. It can be a little intense, right? Oh, is this going to be my match? So if they begin as friends, thinking this brother, this sister could be a good friend of mine, and as friends and brother and sister, then they get to know each other. And that way it takes out some of the intensity of the matching, and especially people, men or women who tend to be internal or an introvert, like more not as, they can't carry a conversation as well. They're wonderful people, but maybe have some societal awkwardness, or so sometimes just being friends can be very, very helpful. And then the first 21 days, we encourage them just to relax and get to know each other, make a friendship, and think about, do they want to continue to get to know each other more deeply? In other words, moving into a conversation stage. So matching supporters can be really, really key in this area. And it's important to realize that they're not deciding to be matched. Very often I'll tell my candidates, don't just have a conversation. This is not a matching. The only commitment you're making is to have a conversation for a few days or a few weeks to see if there is some relationship that can grow, and they could become very good friends, but not become a couple. So it's a win-win in any case. So matching supporters can be very helpful in that way, to encourage them to continue or to connect in a relaxed, hopefully a friendship conversation. In the family matching process, once both families approve of a conversation, the introduction phase can begin. So it's important that both families, and of course the candidates, agree to have this conversation. And once again, this is not a matching. And that's very important to clarify, that this is not a matching, unless it is. If they've decided, yep, let's just get matched. Of course, that's up to the families and the candidates, as long as they're committed. And for first generation, matching supporters and candidates should agree upon a potential match. And then we recommend that they do a 7-day prayer condition, and at the same time advise the BFD that there is a potential conversation between these couple, and they're doing a 7-day prayer condition to prepare for a conversation. So we really want the continental directors, the BFD, to be aware of what is happening in the first generation. It can be very helpful for prayer and spiritual conditions. So when a matching supporter, two matching supporters and two candidates introduce their candidates to each other, we encourage them to do a 7-day prayer condition and report that to the BFD, so that the BFD is aware of this potential matching conversation. So then once they've completed the 7-day prayer condition, candidates begin their introductory period, and then the communication phase. So that's what we're recommending in America now. And it works very well, but spiritually, I think it's very helpful because it makes it a more vertical connection to the BFD. And then, of course, can be reported to the continental director, who always wants to know how many people, right, are connecting and communicating and in conversations. So that's one option. So we've been encouraging this, and the other thing that has been very helpful is these 21-day periods that I've mentioned several times. So as matching supporters, you can encourage that, and it could be very helpful. So in the introduction phase, meetings are often virtual the first time. They may or may not live nearby, so they won't actually meet each other for a period of time. But it's important that they take responsibility, set up times that they can communicate with each other. And on the bfm.familyfed.org website are what we call 41 recommended questions that they can use to discuss and get to know each other. Sometimes it's awkward for people who don't know each other at all. Sometimes they've been told, don't talk to the opposite sex. You cannot talk, right? And so they're trained in this kind of thinking, and it can be very difficult. So these 41 questions or something similar can be helpful for them to kind of get the conversation going. And they're important questions like, eventually, do you want to have children? And, you know, when do you plan to get blessed? Are you hoping to go to the next blessing? Or anyway, questions like that. So they're important to ask, but also can help in their communication phase to get to know each other. And the goal for the first 3 weeks, this introduction phase, is to decide whether or not they want to continue into the next 21 days or the next 25-week communication phase. So the introduction phase, we say, is about 3 weeks, communication phase 25. So all of that together is 7 months. Not required. Sometimes candidates think they have to do this, but this is not. We just want to encourage them to take the time to sincerely get to know the other person. And if it's just not going to work, we don't want them to waste their time, right? They can still remain as friends, but end the actual intentional conversation period if that's what they feel is necessary. So the communication phase is a courtship. It's an intentional time as friends or as a brother and sister to decide whether or not to become betrothed. And that evolves over a period of time as they commit and connect with each other. So the 21-day periods of goals, I've talked about that a lot. Relationship building questions can be very helpful. Conversation questions are linked there. And matching supporters, it's important that we keep in touch with them just to see how they're going. Not to push them one way or another, but to allow them to be able to share with us their feelings, their heart, their attitude, and they will feel supported. If you just reach out to them periodically and say, hey, how's it going? That sometimes that's all that's necessary, but it can mean a lot to your candidate. So here's some suggested readings. As a couple, when they're communicating with each other, they can read these things. Mother's autobiography and father's principle of creation. Principle of creation. Wow, that's God's ideal, right? Real love and dating, 5 love languages. All of these can be very helpful resources for them to read and study together as a couple. Or if they're in a different time zone, they can each read 1 or 2 pages. And then when they have a chance to talk, they can discuss what they've learned or what they gained from that reading. So they don't necessarily have to read them together on the same call at the same time, but it can be good for them to do that. A couple more things. How to avoid falling in love with a jerk. A little bit cute, but the compound effect. Marry him, the case for settling for Mr. Good Enough. That's quite a humorous book. And anyway, sometimes it can relieve some of the tension if they read books like that. But there are some really, really good points that are made that can be helpful for couples as they evaluate what they're feeling and where they're at in a relationship. So pornography we did talk about, and I referred a lot to highnoon.org, Life Without Shadows. And that, of course, is something that's very important for candidates to evaluate. So you as matching supporters, I encourage you to go to highnoon.org so you're familiar with what is there. And then as necessary, you can refer your candidates and families to this website if they need some guidance, some support, or if they have an addiction. It's very important that they work on those things. In the communication phase, it's important that they invest. If they really are serious about finding their potential match, then they should, of course, be investing. Now, some of them might be working on a PhD. I have one candidate whose job takes 12 hours a day, it seems like. I don't exactly know, but he's so busy that he just is not really investing in finding and relating to his potential match. So there's nothing I can do. I send him a message every now and then. How are you? How are things going? Etc. And if someone comes to me and says, we would like to just consider a matching conversation, of course, I'll contact him and his parents and say, what do you think about this? And but I can't make them get matched. I can't make him, or I can encourage him. I can communicate and connect. It's up to the individuals to take responsibility. And so if they're in a conversation, especially, then it's important for them to invest. And then as matching supporters, we can keep in touch. Guide the candidates to gradually and honestly disclose what needs to be shared. Very often, candidates will say, so when should I talk about my addiction? Or when should I explain that I was addicted or I had this particular problem in the past? And I always explain to them, and I think I mentioned yesterday, they are God's son, God's daughter. That's who they are. They are not defined by any mistake they've made or any fallen nature or any bad habit. They are God's son and God's daughter. So when they do their profile and when they begin a communication with a potential matching partner, it's important that they express from God's point of view who they are. Having said that, at some point in the future, maybe after a month or 2 months, when they feel the conversation is going well and there could be a potential permanent matching relationship and a blessing, then it could be the best time to talk about issues that they are dealing with. So for example, if they are addicted to pornography, but they've been what they call clean, in other words, they haven't had any give and take with pornography for, say, 40 days or 3 months, then they should bring that up with their potential match and just explain where they're at. Listen, there's something we need to talk about. And I have struggled with this issue and I'm working really hard to overcome it, and I have support. But at this point, I was addicted to pornography and I'm still working on overcoming it 100%. Like that, but it is important that they disclose those challenging situations. And if they've had a fallen sexual relationship, that too, I feel, is important for them to reveal. Even if they've had special grace and been 100% forgiven and completely, therefore, restored to the original position of a blessed child before the fall, they still should explain to their potential match that they had a relationship in the past. If it comes out later, the spouse finds out about it and they did not express that to them, they didn't tell them about it, it can destroy the trust that has been built in their relationship. So this is a personal thing. This is my recommendation. And in North America, we are very strong in encouraging that kind of honesty to build trust and integrity. So of course, we have to rely on each individual and each family to make those choices. And in Africa, you may make some different recommendations, but we just feel it's so, so important to be really honest about where we're at. So encourage candidates to build trust and to be careful about giving away their heart too quickly. And that's kind of arbitrary. It's a little bit difficult because if they feel an affection or an attraction to a potential spouse, then they really want to be honest and be the best person for their potential spouse, right? So it's a little bit difficult, but it's very important that they try to be honest and yet careful about how much they give their heart until there is a mutual commitment to each other. So it's challenging, but also matching supporters can help with that because we can just listen to where they're at, what they're thinking, what they're feeling. Sometimes we can give some guidance, but we want to be fairly careful with that because it's their choice. And especially if they're blessed children, their families as well should be involved, right? So it's important that they're always honest. I hope that's not confusing. It's a little bit of a kind of a, it's not like science where you can check the boxes, right? We're involving hearts, but we want to protect the hearts of our young men and women. So in communication phase, very often candidates will come together as they'll meet each other, they'll have time together, and sometimes they can become too close physically. So this is something, once again, as matching supporters, that we need to encourage them to be really careful and just wise. God gave us intellect, emotion, and will. Our emotions sometimes become dominant, right, and overpower us. But it's important that we understand intellectually why we shouldn't have a sexual relationship, for example, or become too intimate too early, and then exercise our will to give us the strength to make wise choices. So, so it's not a sin to become attracted or emotionally involved, but it is important that it's balanced with great wisdom and care. So in the communication phase, we encourage them once again to take the full 210 days or 7 months to decide if they're going to become a matched couple. But they can end the conversation at any time if they just really feel it's not going to go anywhere. And if the process ends, we encourage either parents or matching supporters to communicate that to the other family, so that the candidate doesn't feel obligated to tell this person that they're communicating with, I just don't want to talk to you anymore. That can be very painful for the other person to receive. So when parents or a matching supporter communicates that to their candidate, then we can embrace them, we can support them, we can encourage them. And one of the important things is that we encourage them to realize this is not a failure. It's not a failure. It's not a mistake. You can learn from this. So it's not a failure. Don't try not to feel bad about it. Just realize that it wasn't the best ideal match and learn from it. So very often one of them will be hurt or disappointed, but it's important that we support our candidate and encourage them. Take time to heal, pray, and then revise their matching plan and move forward once again into the matching process when their heart is healed a little bit and they feel ready. So the commitment ceremony I discussed, and you as BFD leaders and leaders in your community know that they need to make the commitment, have the matching ceremony. Reverend Yong, when he was the Continental Director in America, encouraged a big church celebration when couples got matched, to make it a big, big event. That's up to the couple. And he encouraged that because it's exciting. It's exciting, but sometimes couples are more, they want it to be more reserved. And so it's up to them to decide if they want to make it a big event or just very small. But they should do some kind of a prayer, offer it to God, make the commitment to each other as a matched couple, and then take a photo of the couple, fill out the matching report form that the BFD has, and upload or send that matching report to their BFD. So whichever country, but both of the candidates, both of the couple need to do this. So that registers them as a matched couple. And very often that will be reported to True Mother. Not always. I'm not sure what the policy is right now, but sometimes I think Mother wants to know. And then preparation for the blessing. In I think every country in the world, we ask them to have a blessing education as a couple. Now they're a couple. It's a different attitude, different relationship. They should prepare to make their blessing offering. And then when the blessing is announced, then they can prepare to go to the next blessing and register as is appropriate within their particular country. For first generation, and this is true of Jacob generation who grew up in our movement, unless they were born unless they were conceived after parents received the blessing, then they are first generation. So if they're conceived, if the parents received the blessing, then the child is conceived. That child then is born as a blessed child, right? But otherwise, they are first generation, so they still have original sin, and that means that they need to change their blood lineage at the time of the blessing. So you all know, because you've all gone through this process, the holy wine ceremony, participating in True Parents' cosmic blessing ceremony, the chastening ceremony after the blessing, 40 days of separation and offering of gratitude to True Parents, and then culminating in the 3-day ceremony. And that completes the change of blood lineage process. If any one of those steps is not fulfilled completely or properly, then they need to report that, and the BFD will give them guidance to complete that process so that their children then will be born without original sin. Very, very important. So all singles, Mother is asking, they all should go to the cosmic blessing ceremony with True Mother. So that includes first generation singles and blessed children who are matched. They all should participate in True Parents' cosmic blessing ceremony. And then if there are situations where intergeneration, in other words, a BC and a first gen want to go to the blessing, that should be reported to the BFD so that they can give clear guidance with that particular situation. And you probably are all aware, there are age requirements that come from True Mother. If a BC brother, just very briefly, if a brother is 30 years of age, a blessed child, then their couple can possibly be qualified to go to the blessing. If the sister is 28 years or older, blessed child. The age of the first generation doesn't matter, but all of these circumstances and situations should be reported to the BFD for absolute clarification, so there are no mistakes. And then if Reverend Bougre is not very, very clear on the next steps, which 99% he will be, if not, then he can check with international, and then clarification can be found. So before profiles, so here's a quick summary of what we've talked about, and then we'll end. So you can go get another cup of coffee or whatever you need to do. Go to bed. Before profiles are visible, first generation must be candidates, and blessed children must have had a purity interview or be a candidate. If they're a candidate, in either case, they can be visible on Blessing for You. And the same is for OMS, the online matching system. For matching supporters, do not do more for the family or candidate than they are taking responsibility for themselves. Very important. The International BFD has asked that couples receive the blessing before getting married. Encourage parents and matching supporters to keep in touch with each other's families. So especially during a conversation, but even after the conversation, after the blessing, it's so inspiring to keep in touch with your future in-laws, right? Or your in-laws. So we're building families, and yeah, so that's important. Both candidates must be fully qualified before they can be officially matched. So whether they're first gen or blessed child, they need to be qualified candidates, qualified by the BFD in their country. So each country is responsible to, and continent is responsible to qualify their candidates. All singles should participate in True Parents Cosmic Blessing Ceremony. And this is a PowerPoint that one of our BCs in North America designed, which has links to the various steps in the matching process. So I can forward this to Reverend Boukre, and if he feels it's helpful for Africa, then he can send it to you. This has the North American links to the various North American websites, but it has a lot of very valuable information and steps in the matching process. So that's the end of the presentation today, and I hope it's been valuable and helpful, and I'm sure there are a lot of steps and perhaps a lot of questions that you may have. So Reverend Boukre, back to you, and we can decide if you want to take some questions now.
OK, thank you. Merci beaucoup. On va donner une grande ovation à notre conseiller, à notre conférencier de ce soir, Diane Abelset. Yovo n'a pas applaudi, hein? Quelqu'un il applaudit que c'est plus intéressant. D'accord. Merci beaucoup. Donc, je crois qu'il nous reste une conférence, c'est bien ça, Yann? Ou on a fini complètement?
No, that's the end of the matching supporter training. Yes.
C'est la fin.
Yeah.
De la formation. OK. Encore une fois de plus, ovation pour notre conférencier. Voilà, plus fort, s'il vous plaît. Voilà, Yovo a compris.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much.
OK, donc nous allons passer, je crois bien, aux questions-réponses. Si vous avez des questions, c'est le moment pour que notre conférencier, voilà, puisse apporter des éclaircies pendant qu'il est encore là avec nous. Questions-réponses. Voilà. Si vous voulez écrire aussi dans le chat, je crois qu'on peut aussi lire votre question. Voilà. Des questions, je vois Valentin Garoua, Cameroun, qui, voilà. Ouvrez votre micro et puis posez votre question.
All right, thank you. I'm grateful to our elder brother John, and also to Reverend Boukre, who gave us this opportunity. We have learned a lot these two days. So my question is very simple. It goes like this. What should be our how should we handle cases where children already entered into communication with the intention of matching, meaning without the knowledge of their parents? How should we handle such a situation? Personally, I encountered two cases as matching supporter. In one case, when the parent found out, they just decided to use the opportunity and they contacted the parents at the other end But at the other end, the child got angry because the child was not yet ready to inform the parents. And the other case, the second case, when the parent found out, they just asked their child to stop it. And this made the child become somehow rebellious. So it's based on these two cases. I'm trying to find out how should we handle cases where children have entered into communication with the intention of matching. Thank you.
Yes, that's a very good question, and can be a big challenge. We know that the process it's important that it's a vertical process. So when two young people are communicating with each other, it is very important that they talk to their parents and communicate clearly their heart and their hopes to the parents. And hopefully the parents then will be open to the possibility of this becoming a matching, because their hearts are becoming involved. And in the example that you gave, Reverend Valentin, in the second where the person became resentful, the child became resentful and angry because the parents said, stop. We can probably gather that the parents have the authority to do that, but their heart has not been connecting very well to the son or daughter. So I feel as a matching supporter, we can talk to candidates and explain to them how important it is for them to connect and communicate with their parents. And very often as matching supporters, we can communicate with the parents to explain that God can work through our children. And many, many times I've seen beautiful blessings result when young people have met each other and eventually received the blessing, but with their parents' support and encouragement. And it can be very difficult. One situation we had in North America, the parents agreed to the matching process, and then later the mother decided, no, I'm going to change my mind. So we had, because they had given consent and permission and the other three parents were supporting, and this was a case like that where the candidates had met on a church program or, together, and they decided they wanted to have a conversation. But later the mother changed her mind, and we, as the BFD in Canada, we had to allow this couple to go to the blessing. And now they have I forget, I think a son, but anyway, the grandmother now is really, really happy. The lady, the mother who had tried to back out, and she wrote to all the leaders around the world. She wrote to Korea, to the BFD, that was before Mother's Secretariat, but she tried to break up this matching, and now she's really, really happy because she has a grandchild. So as matching supporters, we can help parents to realize that God can work through our children, and thank God he can work through our children, right? Otherwise we'd be in big trouble. So I hope that helps. It is very important that parents are involved. It's important that young people, we call them children, that they communicate and build a relationship with their parents, and hopefully they can work together to prepare for the blessing and build healthy, happy relationships. So I hope that helps to answer from my experience and what I would encourage in a case like that. Matching supporters can be really, really helpful in that way, because sometimes parent-child communication is challenging, as we know. Yeah, so thanks for that question.
Thank you.
Merci beaucoup pour la réponse donnée par notre conférencier. Nous allons aller avec la deuxième question. La question sera posée par Georges Godonou, certainement du Bénin.
Oui, bonsoir, chers familles, bonsoir, chers leaders.
Bonsoir.
Je voudrais seulement savoir si l'inscription pour devenir Blessing supporter sur Blessing for You est valable sur aussi l'autre site ou bien s'il faut faire une autre inscription là-bas sur OMS.
So how does he become approved as a matching supporter on the matching websites? Is that the question? I will refer that to
Non,
Reverend.
ma question,
sorry.
c'est déjà
Sorry.
approuvé sur Blessing for You.
Blessing for You.
Et je voudrais savoir s'il faut faire une autre inscription sur OMS avant d'avoir la possibilité de voir les profils ou pas.
Okay, yes. OMS will, the OMS online matching system has a really excellent list of matching supporters from around the world. And that website wants to have every matching supporter in every country listed on OMS. So I'm happy you asked that question. What I encourage you to do is contact OMS. I'll put her name in the chat, and some of you know her already. But you contact her and explain to her that you are a matching supporter in Africa. She may want confirmation from Reverend Bougray. It's possible, because she's very careful about those kind. Anyway, she doesn't want people listed who really aren't matching supporters, as you can imagine. And so, she really she is often very careful. Let me just show my screen and show you. If that's okay. Is that okay if I do that? I'll show you OMS, the online matching system, because it is a really helpful tool. And so you can see now my screen. So this is my login page. I have this saved, and I just go to login because it's got everything saved there. And then on in the top corner here, you can see where it says matching supporters list. And here's the list of matching supporters from around the world. So there are a lot of them from many countries in the world, lots of them from Africa. You can see quite a few there. And anyway, there are, I think, several hundred. So this is a really good way for us as matching supporters to be able to keep in touch with each other. If you want to reach a matching supporter from different country, you can sort here. I think you can see my screen, right? So you can see, click on country, and then you can, most of them have the country listed. So you can reach out to these matching supporters in the various countries. And if your name is here or if your name is not here, you can contact her and ask her to put your name on here. And perhaps Reverend Bougray may have to approve you, because just to be sure that, yeah, it's up to date and clear. So, yeah, so I hope that that's helpful, and I do encourage you to do that, to have your name listed here. Blessing for You, unfortunately, does not have that option. Yeah. So I hope, does that answer that question? Yeah, good, okay.
Oui, très bien, merci.
OK. En tout cas, merci beaucoup à notre conférencier, John Abelset. Nous allons maintenant passer à la troisième. Je pense qu'il y avait une troisième main levée. Angolio, si je ne me trompe. C'est bien ça?
Yes.
Okay, yes. You can ask your question.
Okay, thank you so much. I just want to find out, is it really appropriate, like, to write it directly to the child, like a son or daughter who is like 27, 28, 30, at least is adult, mature enough. Because I found out some parents, you write to them, they don't even check their emails. And sometimes they just give the answer without maybe involving their parents. So is it appropriate to write like somebody directly, like a parent writes to the child, and then the child can inform to their parent? Because many parents don't even check their emails. Some old parents of Blessing of 82, that they are there. You write to them, they don't answer, they don't give any response. But if you write to the children, they respond, and then they contact their parents. So that kind of the method, is it good or not? Is it really appropriate? Just want to confirm.
That is a good question. I think I mentioned yesterday when we were matching one of our younger daughter, we reached out to 150 families over a period of 6 years. And part of the reason that we reached out to so many families was because many did not respond. So when we emailed to them or messaged to them, they did not respond to us. And so that's a very common problem where parents don't respond to an inquiry about the possible matching. Very sad, because their son or daughter hopefully wants to be matched and the parents are not taking responsibility. So yes, especially if they are older, I think the blessed family, the Blessing for You says, I think the website allows at age 26 and older, we can contact the child directly and they can search for their potential match. So that would be appropriate to contact them and to say, can you give us tell us how to communicate with your parents? We have a potential matching conversation we would like to discuss. How should we proceed? Something like that. Also, if they have a matching supporter listed, that's where we can be very, very helpful, because then we can contact the family. And another way would be to contact the pastor or someone in that country that we know that might know the family. So that all is extra work, and it's unfortunate that we may have to do that. But so I think what is most important is for us as matching supporters to encourage our candidates and all of the singles that we know to be sure their information is up to date, that the parents the parents' email is correct, because sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it will go into the spam box. So all of those are challenges. And so that's why a matching supporter can be another reason why matching supporters can be helpful, because we can help to communicate clearly with the member, with the parents. Yeah, so thanks for not giving up. And like I said, we reached out to a lot of people in our matching process, and it was really a challenge. So.
Thank you.
OK, thank you. Merci beaucoup à notre conférencier. Merci pour la réponse donnée. Y a-t-il une autre question? Je vois Madame Mofo, Maï, Badjoua. OK, allez-y.
Bonsoir. Oui, bonsoir tout le monde. Je m'excuse d'être dans le noir. J'espère que je suis audible. OK. Bon, je remercie beaucoup vraiment tous ceux qui ont intervenu depuis hier jusqu'à aujourd'hui. et surtout pour la traduction aujourd'hui. Très grand merci aux techniciens, on est vraiment satisfait. Ok, j'ai un petit souci avec un candidat, c'est mon fils en personne. Il avait le choix qu'il m'avait présenté. Donc, il me disait que même ces personnes-là ne savent pas que il a un penchant, mais qu'il voulait que les choses se passent selon le principe et que c'est les parents qui doivent faire les premiers pas. Donc, moi, je n'étais pas trop d'accord avec ce choix-là. Il y a l'autre, comme il a insisté, quand j'ai envoyé quelqu'un là-bas pour demander, les parents, ils ont dit que non, la fille est déjà en processus. Et il s'est énervé parce que j'ai traîné avec les choses. Pourquoi je n'ai pas réagi à temps? Parce que la fille attendait et comme il ne réagissait pas, elle a accepté la demande des parents. Bon, après ça, les autres demandes que j'ai eues, je le présentais cela, il refusait. L'année passée, il n'a pas participé à la bénédiction. Et cette année, il m'a dit que non, il est prêt pour participer à la bénédiction 2025, mais il me confie le choix et que je dois choisir quelqu'un qui est comme moi. Donc, je suis coincée actuellement, je ne sais pas comment faire. Il dit qu'il veut un partenaire qui est comme sa mère.
That's beautiful. He loves his mama so much that he wants a match just like her. Yes, it's when our children have an attraction or a artistic feeling in their heart that they would like to be matched to a particular person. It's very important as parents and matching supporters that we follow up, that we listen carefully, that we respect their heart, their feeling, and what they want in their lives, and then communicate with the other family, even as in this case, that where you didn't agree with that matching. It would have been very helpful if you could follow up with their family to find out right away where the person is at. And in this case, it sounds like their daughter already was in a matching conversation and so not available. So if you reported that to your son and said, I did check, and they said that she's already committed to somebody or in a conversation with somebody, then he would realize that it's not you that blocked him in that potential relationship, but already she was not available. So that's an important point. And what I would encourage you to do is to connect with it, to go somewhere, sit down privately with your son and apologize that somehow it didn't work out. Never make it up. Don't make up anything. Be absolutely honest, but sincerely try to find a way to apologize for any mistake maybe that you might have made, so that he recognizes that you are sincerely trying to support him. And that hopefully will open his heart so that he can trust that when you find a potential match for him, or he finds a lady that he might want to go to the matching with, he can come to you and you will respect his where he's at. You will respect his desire, his attraction. So I hope that can help. I hope you don't feel guilty. We all have, and as parents, it's important that we are involved. At the same time, it's a balance between how do we respect and support and encourage our children, and at the same time try to have a heavenly and vertical perspective. So it can be challenging. But I encourage you to really build or rebuild a relationship with him as much as possible. So I hope that can help. And this is a common example that we will all encounter as matching supporters. So as matching supporters, we can really invest and support parents and candidates in communicating and respecting where each other are coming from. So I hope that helps.
Merci beaucoup. Merci.
Merci beaucoup à notre conférencier. Et s'il n'y a pas d'autres questions, voilà, nous allons donner encore une grande ovation à notre conférencier de ce soir, notre aîné John Avelset, coordinateur de Matching Support en Amérique. Voilà. Vraiment, à lui dire merci du fond de notre cœur. Voilà. Merci beaucoup, John. Je crois
Thank
que
you.
le jour, certainement, si on se retrouve en Corée en 2025, on va exprimer notre cœur là-bas quand on va te voir. Vraiment, merci beaucoup. Merci bien. OK, donc,
Thank you very much.
no problème. Sans plus tarder, nous allons passer aux annonces. L'annonce, c'est que nous clôturons les dossiers de match des candidats au PMC au niveau de l'Afrique le 9 juin. Le samedi prochain, nous clôturons les dossiers au niveau du PMC. Et le jeudi prochain, le jeudi 13, nous aurons un séminaire, peut-être un peu plus d'informations sur le sel de la vallée de la mort. Nous avons demandé au secrétaire général vraiment de trouver la personne adéquate pour nous expliquer un peu plus sur ce sel, son utilisation, sa valeur, comment on fait, etc. Donc, ça sera pour le jeudi prochain, le jeudi 13 juin, à 16h. Et donc, c'est tout pour les annonces. Nous allons donc passer au closing remark. Et pour cela, nous allons appeler notre aîné, voilà, révérend Jean Gomsi, pour donner les closing remarks avec vos ovations, s'il vous plaît.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. We are grateful to St. John Avelset and so Trevor Grave for organizing this important workshop. I hope we've learned a lot through it and tried our best to apply what we've learned. Of course, it is important to really take care of our youth, take care of our members, so that in which really we can fulfill our responsibility as parents, as matching supporters. We need really to have all the insight necessary. So for the past 2 days, thank you so much for everything that we've learned. And we hope this collaboration will continue. Yeah, thank you. Remember this, yes, since 5 past.
Merci beaucoup à notre aîné, révérend Jean-Augustin, pour ces mots de clôture. Nous allons maintenant passer à la prière de clôture qui sera dite par le BFD de Eswatini. Voilà, Agnès Malouassa. Agnès, tu as la parole pour la prière de clôture.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry I've got a hoarse voice because of the weather, the flu, but I will try my best. I would first like to take this opportunity to thank our international coordinator, Mr. John Abelfet, for all this wonderful information that we have got today. So please please join me in prayer. Our Heavenly Parents and our two parents, we are very grateful to you for giving us this opportunity this evening and the different times around the world for those that are connected in Zoom. Father, we are very grateful to you because today we have come to realize how much responsibility we have, and it's very challenging, very demanding. But if we remember many years back when our forefathers said that in the years to come, we ourselves as parents, shall be responsible for the choice of our children. We took it like something that was not going to happen. But Heavenly Parents, it is happening today. And for that, we cannot forget at the same time how much it has been very heavy for our two parents to do the matching. It has not been easy. So slowly and surely, we are walking into the steps of the foundation paved by our two parents to also feel what they went through and to become fully parents, also to grow up in maturity, because the more responsibility we have of making our children, of arranging, also supporting, guiding other children to get a possible match, the more we become wise and also we become focused. Heavenly Parents, we are so sorry for all shortcomings, maybe because of lack of information. Whenever we were engaged earlier on in this process of helping, and then it did not work, and so many mistakes that also we committed because of ignorance. Heavenly Parents, are humbling ourselves before you at this moment, and also we feel very, very sorry for any process that did not go well because of our lack of wisdom. Heavenly Parents, we are asking God to forgive us. And as you are giving us a new opportunity now through the deep education through which you are taking us, we pray that we can open more and develop more patience and put more into practice all what we are learning today, so that we can make things happen. So that also those candidates who are entrusting in us can fully feel that everything is going well, and also parents can continue to trust in us. We thank you, Heavenly Parents, and we know that all what we have received today, we are not ending there. The way is very long, but for sure, we shall receive it. Yes, may always be upon every time your joy is that blessed, so that they can come out of what is happening in this world today. So many things are happening in the world, and the world is losing hope. Especially the youth are losing hope. The only hope today, Heavenly Parents, is in us, the blessed family, which is in us, the Heavenly Parents, holy community, in order to take the world towards the ideal. There's nothing more that is left out there in the world. We have it all, Heavenly Parents. We just have to work more hard, practice more patience, perseverance, and also have faith that everything is going to work so that we can take our children to the right way and make that kind of ideal family for everyone. We thank you, Father. We thank our Heavenly Parents. We thank our two parents who have been trying all their life to bring us to this, what we do not think that we could reach to. Slowly and surely we are reaching there. So we pray, Heavenly Parents, that the guidance we have received today may not just end here, but we can carry on to put more into practice to help our children. Thank you, Heavenly Parents. Thank you for our facilitators. Thank you, Heavenly Parents, for making this happen. I report deeply this prayer in my name, of the Ngonya Center of Blessed Family. I pray. Adieu.
Adieu. Adieu. Merci beaucoup au BFD de Eswatini. Nous allons maintenant...
Adieu.
Thank you, woman. Nous allons maintenant passer à la dernière salutation à nos bien-aimés vrais parents de l'humanité. Chonche Nchompunke Chombe Baro, ovation pour les vrais parents du ciel, de la terre et de l'humanité. Toute la gloire à eux. Merci beaucoup à notre conférencier encore une fois. Merci à nos interprètes, à nos techniciens, vraiment à toutes les familles, à tous les matching supporters qui sont venus. Nous allons nous séparer avec maintenant la photo de famille qui sera prise par notre technicien pour immortaliser ce moment. Et ceux qui ont des caméras cachées, s'il vous plaît, il faut les ouvrir. On va faire une belle photo. Ah, le technicien me demande de guider la photo. Donc, voilà, ceux qui ont les caméras fermées, il faut ouvrir vos caméras pour que nous puissions avoir vos visages, vos souris. Voilà. OK, donc nous allons maintenant faire les petits cœurs. Small hearts, petit cœur, ou la photo de famille avec le sourire. Voilà. Technicien, ça va? Je pense qu'il y a des pages. On patiente un tout petit peu. Et je crois que c'est bon. Nous allons faire le moyen cœur. Voilà. Et cœur moyen. Avec le sourire toujours. Notre technicien se charge de prendre les belles photos. Voilà. Evelyne sourit bien. Chifwembe, voilà, c'est fait. Merci, merci. Et merci beaucoup. Voilà. Merci à tous et à toutes. Merci vraiment à notre conférencier de ce jour, John. Merci d'être venu. Merci à notre traductrice, Eliane.
Merci beaucoup. Gracias.
À
Thank
Célino,
you.
à Yovo, notre technicien, à tout le
God
monde.
bless you.
God bless you all.
See you soon.
Yeah, see
See
you
you next
soon.
time.
Maybe in Korea, we will express our heart there. Don't worry.
Thank you, Uncle John.
Thank you.